Ebusuafo na etifo ni die kwan so me patcho me ma obi bia akwa baba channel so hi daily update TV. Ebusua me patcho some hours ago and I said some yesterday just yesterday some hours ago. Na me patcho all the political parties is in the security agents no mko meeting no mko sign a peace pact. Now after some sign a peace pact we Nyaho Tamakloe oye a leading member and a founding member of the New Patriotic Party NPP we pia babontin in Sembia betuja according to ono so far ono no hu ni say the peace council ne nkofo bi omo kasa ekwachi no omo ye hypocrite in what sense me patcho in a sense say 2020 yekoto aba omo ko sign peace pact ye bonkofo to ye kunkofo 8 enko peace council o man pia ba bonten amen condemn wo ma me ka hwe aban no led by nanado nanko akofo ado ono so yi nani wan ka hwe asem fa no ho kora ema ye nya even some of the NPP your friend is saying gurus ni bi be kan say sankofo no omo ya kronfo enti na yekun omo no yes now me your friend say now omo ye miscreant enti na yekun omo no NPP for ya leading NPP gurus for ya na pie baba omo bi na pie baba enti be kan nsem we nyina towards the 2020 election kofo na yekun omo no na ado dan kwa akofo don so be kan hwe enti mo peace council mo nim sa na mo we nyina mo kan hwe afi no ye say koto abafoforo mo afro mo nyina so mo mbra be sign peace pact na say mo na mo ye hypocrite mo ye nyaatwemfo papa na ebusua o kan no ni wie no ana o kan say according to ono ni info kura owo no o ma deploy soldiers ma so far towards our December election ya yebekoi ebusua na ono de o say how can you deploy soldiers na o say expect peace na wo hu kuro bi a omokoto aba o ma deploy soldiers so far secretly o ma secretly deploy soldiers ana mo say mo sa chese enya atwom ebusua nsem we mi kwa mentino bebia but minim say e confirm with nsem a NDC for recently led by Sami Jemfi be kan say Brigadier General Michael Opoku any NPP fu bi eye kululu ne kalala so mo be ye dombe bia to break the election tina Brigadier Michael Opoku odin ebusua kwa abochire no nsem a NDC for be kan no nyaho Tamakloe nso apia ba bonten abe make leakages be say or no the information kran ne nyem no o me deploy soldiers o me their soldiers for aba so for mo de o mo basa December election busa me ma me kasa nyetenti ye be kone akoti nsem na nkasa afri nyaho Tamakloe ho ye wi de aka ne be kan nyaho Tamakloe ndada screen so no me patcho so wo hu no ono a ye nkone nkoti nsem on so pie ba bonten de be ebetu udwa nyakopon hia no nyokese me da se bebre stay tuned.
That happened in that 2020 election while a peace pact has been signed for peaceful election. The question still remains if anyone or any other persons who suffered one act of violence leading to their sustaining some various degree of injury or even death still have had questions answered as to justice served them or not. We cannot also ignore that. What we do know is that these persons, this incident that happened in 2020 in the Odododio constituency, Rita Otu, 15 years of age. Rita was not even of age to take part in the election. She was shot during a fracas along the streets in the Odododio constituency during the 2020 elections. Rita is gone. As we speak, no records so far of the persons who did this, and they've been arrested and prosecuted. Emmanuel Dompre, 37 years of age, a postman, a polling agent, also in the Odododio constituency, was shot during the fracas on the streets, also in the Odododio constituency. And then we have 30-year-old Ibrahim Abbas, self-employed, shot at the Odoko Police Church Coalition Center, and then also Tajuddin Al-Hassan, 39 years of age. Tajuddin was a driver, shot at the Bono Chempem Hall Coalition Center in Techiman South. Techiman South is in the Bono East region. Now, Tajuddin Al-Hassan is part of these 8 persons we're talking about. The persons we mentioned earlier, Rita and Emmanuel Dompre, and those persons who also suffered these injuries during that particular election. And also what happened in Ablekuma Central. Ibrahim Abbas, 30-year-old, was shot at the Odoko Police Church Coalition Center in Ablekuma Central. Then you have 18-year-old Abdallah Ayarik, who was also shot. He was an electrician, was shot in Techiman South in the Bono East region at the same Coalition Center hall where this incident happened. Is part of the 8 persons we're talking about who died. And then also there's Samira Zakaria, 15 years old, who was hit by a bullet at the NDC party office in Savelugu in the northern region. No records as yet of any prosecution. And then Hussein Musa, 15 years old, a student, also was hit by a bullet, the same in Savelugu in the northern region. Now, we have a video, just to recall, 2 years ago, when my colleague then, Komla Dom, went to this Techiman South and Techiman North areas, where going to speak to them in these 2 constituencies, what exactly happened, and the specific focus in the Techiman South constituency and the violence that led to the death of these persons there. Take a look.
What we should know from none son was Susa, and to what from no, and almost had to born her, and a peonage. Until me Pendream who saw the enemy dear America, enemy cornso, me call Pajano. No man was police in Sassadi to no Abraham. Enemy Jack, let me see, welcome me bano, who will come out with me couple. Then I mean a bit to Yauka.
Kadomuya said, Dumano, Yankupon Homo. Yamintu Minti, so on your Yenesian. Nanny Kesi, one or Coquine, so almost shared an omoyen. What's me a bonny put to Amanabi Piaha, what boha Piaha?
Tamakloe is a statesman, member of the NPP. The fund members is joining us right now. Dr. Nyaho Tamakloe, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. First off, this much anticipated peace pact has been signed now for the greater good. But then again, would you also tie in to those who are asking questions about beyond today, then what next? What would you expect to see beyond the signing of the peace pact today?
Well, I think that there's one thing that we all have to be careful about. Yes, these peace pacts have been signed for the past, I think this is the 4th time. If my memory could serve me right. And we have unfortunately seen what has happened, even though these peace pacts have been signed. I personally don't believe that just putting a pen to paper means anything. Peace, you can't have justice without peace. Nowhere in the world can you have justice without peace. Or you can't have justice without peace. We have signed this pact, as I said earlier on several occasions, and yet there have been serious malfeasances to the extent that people lost their life. Recently, as recent as possible, I think in 2020, 8 people lost their lives, and nothing was done about it. Absolutely nothing. So I asked myself at that time, what were the religious bodies doing and those responsible for this sort of pacts? Nothing has happened. Government did nothing, and they did nothing. Now, there's one thing a lot of us have forgotten. As I speak to you now, we have within the system militias. There are militias. What is going to be done about this militia? Have they been talked to? Have they been seen by the security agencies? Have they been seen even by those responsible for them to have them disbanded? They are there. I'm talking about what I know is in place. Now, if we are not going to put these militias out of function, and we allow them to work in the interest of certain interest groups and even government organizations, then we are wasting our time. Now, militias all over the world that I have known since the time of Adolf Hitler has never served anything very good to the state, nor the leader of that state. They have been destructive, and they ended up in always destroying the nation. And I think this is what we have to watch carefully. We have militias in place. I know what I'm talking about. They are there. And the political parties who are keeping these militias must be honest with themselves. Now, with the militias around, anything we put on paper is just useful.
I say, you talk about the knowledge that you have of militias brought into this country by political parties ahead of this election. We're not getting to that, but there have been calls, and you touched on it briefly, calls continuously by, in fact, people who are watching us right now about the persons who were behind the killing of these 8 people during the 2020 general elections. As we speak, there's no update as to whether they have been arrested or not. We do not know. They have not been arrested because there's no record of that. We don't have any latest update from the investigative body on this particular incident that happened 4 years ago. Now, at least to serve as a deterrent to some persons who would probably be nursing that same idea of fomenting trouble, causing trouble in this election 9 days away from today. To the extent that these persons have not been identified and punished to serve as a deterrent, does that create any source of concern for you?
It is. It is very concerning. 4 good years, not even a single church has come out to condemn it vehemently and call on government to have it, to have those who were involved in these heinous crimes prosecuted. No one has done anything about it. 8 poor souls are gone, and we have a government in place. 8 poor souls have gone, and we have religious leaders who claim they are the religious heads of this nation. Nothing has been done. 4 years has passed, and no one has been brought to justice. What is the police doing? Is that well beyond their their ability? I don't believe so. The police have been quiet because they have not been told to be quiet. And as for the IGP, I personally will tell him straight in the face that he should not think he's dealing with ordinary people in this country. This country has seen IGPs before, long before he came. Right down after the colonial era. From Majite to him now, Majite has been a strong police commissioner. I was then a kid, but I remember. And all this. Now, he shouldn't think he will come just to talk English. And that is his work. Everybody in this country is watching him. And he fails to do his duty. What will happen? He won't believe it.
In fact, the flag bearer of the NDC in the same speech that we played, Dr. Nyaho Tamakloe, has suggested that the IGP should, in his view, instruct the arrest and detention of persons who show up in masks and in any form of uniform that has not been sanctioned because he heads the election task force going into this particular election. It is a call that you would support.
I made mention of those in masks and quasi police or military uniform. We saw them at Ayawaso. We saw them. What is their duties? Who sent them there? And we noticed that a military officer came out to claim that he was responsible. Recently, what I heard was that that military officer had been promoted to the rank of Brigadier General. If that is true, then I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this evening, that this country is sitting on the time bomb.
Dr. Nyaho Tamakloe, do appreciate your time and your contribution to this all-important conversation tonight. Thank you very much. He is a founding member of the MPP and also statesman. Dr. Nyaho Tamakloe, thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. Let's stay a bit further on this matter of election and election security, just a bit away from the Peace Pact, but the underlying issue of security in question is, and that's what Dr. Nyaho Tamakloe just touched on, if the chapter is closed, and it's coming up next, the chapter is closed on those who lost their lives in the 2020 general election. There's a lot. Dr. Adambona is a security analyst. He's joining us right now. Dr. Adambona, appreciate you. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. First off, there's a quick one on this, the impact and importance of this Peace Pact and what has to be done going forward, bearing in mind all of these incidents that happened in 2020.
Well, yes. Good evening, Alfred, and your viewers. Well, I think what needs to be done, which wasn't done in the 2020 elections, has to do with engagements. You'll notice that prior to the 2020 elections, close to zero engagements were held. The then, IGP Opombuenu and his team, there weren't that much engagements. If there was any at all, I don't remember. And so I think that fast forward to 2024, the level of engagement Dampare and his team, Dr. Dampare and his team, you can see them. It looks like it's a daily affair, engaging everyone, including the media. And so I want to believe that if everything checks out, these elections, looking at what the measures they've put in place, would pass, to be very peaceful, despite some of the concerns some of us have raised. And as we speak this evening, even though a peace pact has been signed, I am receiving intel from my sources in the Western region. I would want probably the Western regional minister to, say it is not legitimate. It's a question. Has there been any meeting? I'm just asking question. Has there been any meeting this evening between the Western regional minister? These are questions, probably rhetorical questions. This evening, has there been any meeting between the Western regional minister and security officers around the African beach area? About 200 of them. Mine is that I think as much as they sign this peace pact, I'm only asking question. Has there been anything like that this evening? My sources, in fact, sent me a lot of information whilst they were at the meeting and what was being discussed and when they allegedly. So these are questions. Were they given 200 Ghana cedis when they were departing the meeting? What was the meeting for? The meeting involved the Air Force, the police, and, the Navy and all manner of security personnel in the vicinity. These are questions I'm asking. And so probably let's wait and see whether there will be answers. But like I'm saying, we owe it as a duty as a nation to be alert. And when these things are happening, let's share amongst one another and ask questions. We can only ask questions from now on so that the powers that be would address them. Right. And so for me, I think a lot is being done by the IGP and his
but to the extent that, fair point then, we'll wait for the detail coming through as you indicated. But to the extent that these persons who were killed, we don't have any records of persons being prosecuted for that. Is it not concerning for you?
It's very concerning, you see, and I say hypocritically, the Chief Justice, Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice witnessed the documents that is signed today. The Chief Justice closed down courts in the Boku area, all the courts in the Boku area. And some of us have been raising legitimate questions about that.
Okay.
And so how good is that? People died in Techiman. We haven't brought those cases. We haven't closed them up yet. The chapters haven't been closed. People were beaten in Ayawaso West Wagon. The reports with the white paper was whitewashed by the presidency. They haven't had any call them compensation as recommended by the justices who met, led by Emil Schott.
Okay.
Up to today, they haven't received any compensation. So as far as I was invited to be at this meeting today, but for some reasons I thought I shouldn't.
Okay.
And I had a good reason for thinking I shouldn't, because you see, it's voluntary. It's not mandatory. They are, even though I see it to be something that we must do it for the optics, if you ask me. Because 2020, this same thing was signed, and go in there and see. The difference will just be the personalities who are signing and witnessing.
Okay.
But as far as I'm concerned, with the media were there, telecasted it for us to see. And in 2020 elections, people died.
Well,
and up to today, we still don't know what has happened to those who committed those atrocities.
We'll see how the coming days will look like
to be
on
punished.
this matter.
Double has not been, no one has spoken about it up to today after the incident.
Dr. Damona, appreciate you. And stay with us here on Ghana Tonight. We'll be back shortly.
Ebusuya me patro nyankopon nchire obibia se wanyamre no akonya videos ni bia hwe we 8 days to election. 8 days to the general election. 7th December. Ebusuya we peaceful election advocacy near the bremo. Ye nyina ye de anu tum. Ebusuya nso fa wanu tum. Yenye ya afemu die. Yenye die beye bia se asumdwe na Ghana ya enjoy so far ne betima kipi. Me patcho aya abato ye adwenkyere. Eye choice. Me die me huni say nanado amamu ye mu aye din nyina. Still me pese me to mo na asetine mu sa ye din mamia. Eye choice. Me makoto ama Bawumia, makoto ama NPP for no me lead. Me die me hwe masetine mu ne niema ekoso a debi nanado amamu die nye. Na mentuma mahama. Mesesem mekwa kofa JM waye bi pen yehu di obetima ye nti meko na makoto aba ma JM eye choice eye just a choice eye adwenkyere ukokyere wa adwen nti hwe na yam na nye basa ye bia ebusuya yesre obi bia ada meka oman num ye dinsen den kura na sasumdwe wo ma eye nanado amamu 8 years yehu de we yehu braya bre. It hasn't been easy with Ghanaians. Yes. And Nancy Amikotie Samohunto no say he never thought class he would survive till this day. And it's true, because in Yemmoa Diama to the extent say just say in Yemmoa Dianca Sebutan can create a but all the same no. Yet me Eda near sorry Yanko Pandom. At least yet me call Ecopedia be. Emma yebusuafo emu adensen kura na at least kakra ebenya mo medini die yetimi nya bi nti sa asumdwe no kura ye wono eye sene se obenya sika wiase sika nyina na oni asumdwe nti ebusua nyankopon adom 7th December no eduru kono ko kire wadwen so obi ya de bi obi de basa bi besi ho a eba bebi a wo to abana ye were authorized agents. Report more norms in taking it on. And famra and she won't sim. Abato a yagentre a choice. Me to my JM. Maybe on to my JM. Maybe you better my Bawumia. Maybe you better my JM. Why not a young conyanko to abano? And one no. And ye intokwa. And yes a country and ye two. Yes, Robibia. Yes, Robibia. Yes, Ramon. Yakopon nchiro bia no nyo bia kese me patcho ye den comment base ya fa comment e share comment section ya da se bebre.